everyone. Hello, India. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. So how are you today? Good, thank you. The slides are coming, I hope. And I have a first quiz for you. Who recognizes this guy? Who is he? What's his name? Gukesh. Who is he as a title? He's a world champion in chess. So congratulations, India. You have an amazing generation of chess programmers, yes. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because it's a less known fact that India and Poland, where I come from, have a big cooperation, and half of the Gukesh team were Polish people, are Polish people, and the main chess coach is a guy I know, Gaju, who helped Gukesh to become a world champion. And also the reason I'm mentioning this is because I myself am a chess player too. For those interested, I have around 2100 ELO, and if anyone wants to play chess with me, after the talk I brought a chessboard, so please come later and let's play. And another reason I'm mentioning chess is because in chess we care about stuff like strategy and time management, and I want to kind of build a bridge between those concepts in chess and in Rails and domain-driven design. In chess, we have a strategically healthy position. If our pieces are well developed, if we have a pawn center, which is a pawn center, the king is secured, the rooks are connected. This is a strategically healthy position in chess. I draw the arrows where our pieces can go, and you can see as white pieces here, we can react to any black action, regardless of what's happening. We are well prepared for this. And that's a strategically good position. And when we try to build a comparison for Rails and for programming, strategically healthy position is when we are prepared against any kind of requirements that are coming. And we can react to them easily with our code base. And that's why I mentioned time management, because as chess players, despite the stereotypes, we are really fast. So we have to make decisions really fast. And we can make decisions really fast when we have strategically healthy positions, because we can easily make a move regardless of what is happening. We are prepared for this. So yes, my name is Andrzej Krzywda. It's a very hard name to pronounce. I started doing Rails in 2004, and almost from the beginning, my focus was on legacy Rails applications, so big Rails applications. And I'm in this kind of unique position that I got to review over 100 Rails repositories, over 100 Rails applications I got to review, because that's what my company does. We help teams with bigger Rails applications. And it became my mission to understand what's happening with the Rails teams and Rails code bases, that they are so super fast at the beginning, in the first 6 months, but later on we all struggle. The code base becomes messy, we are slower, and the business complains. So that's how I started exploring domain-driven design. In strategy in Rails, how can we be prepared for any kind of requirement that comes from the business and be able to react quickly and still maintain the strategically healthy position? The problem with Rails is that Rails is database-driven instead of domain-driven. That was my first lesson. It means we are not reflecting the business language in our code base, we are reflecting the database language in our code base. Everything becomes a table, everything becomes a column, and that's the beauty of active record pattern. Business, on the other hand, they think in processes. When you talk to the business people, they think more like in steps, in procedures, policies, workflows. They're thinking in terms of tables only when they want to have the data being visible. That's where they think in databases. But otherwise, they think in processes. And here's one example of a process of human resources. It's a very simple recruitment process being described in steps. It's kind of obvious We are posting the job update, we are, some candidates apply, we are selecting the best candidate, we negotiate the salary, and the offer letter is sent, and the candidate accepts. That's the business language that they are using. This business process has nothing to do with the code base yet, right? And I know Rails people already see tables there. We already see active records there, right? Let's admit it, I do it as well. So the first thing that I want to tell you about domain-driven design, about modern domain-driven design, is that the main building block is now an event. Event-driven architecture became the modern domain-driven design. And what is an event? Here is a name, order cancelled. So an event has a name. Event has some params and attributes, and it belongs to some module. Let's say it belongs to some business department. It's important that the event, it should work. Okay, it's important that it's in the past tense. So unlike objects, it's more than just one word. It's also not a function. It's almost like a sentence. Something has happened. That's the convention for the event names. Another example, just for you to get used with the idea of events, is product named. 2 attributes, product ID. We are giving a name to a product. It's a fact. It's a historical fact. Thank you. Yep. So the name is important, and that's the crucial part. Those are details. This is just a schema. Just a schema to have a contract around events. This part is the domain. That's why domain-driven design. Events belong to domains. Okay, let's have some others. So there is a domain of authentication. Usually we would use device anyway for that, but let's assume we have events around device. So there is account registered, there is account connected to client. That's another type of event from the communication domain. So we can send messages out in our system, so we have a message sent event. So I hope you get the idea. That's what events are. That's another one. So now let's go back to the business process that we're looking at, the human resources process. And here I mapped how it could look in our code base. Okay, I guess it doesn't work well on this white screen. So here you can see what kind of events I selected, basically mapping those sentences. So the process of mapping, what the business tells us in Jira or in the documentation, is becoming trivial. We're just mapping their language to the event names, and then we are mapping the event names to such code, right? So let's assume we have this code already, we have such events in our code base. What we can do about them? I'm going to show you 2 ways how we can consume events and build a Rails application out of that. And then I will show you how such events are actually published. And many people worry that the big number of events in their application can be a performance issue. That's a valid worry. That's a chart from one of our projects. This here is actually in millions. So in this project, we actually reached 1 billion of events in a MySQL database with no additional tweaking of the database or anything like that. The thing with events, if you have an events table in relational database, because that's what I'm suggesting and proposing, is that it's an append-only database. And you never query the whole data, the whole table. So it's not a big issue that the table grows. 1 billion of events in MySQL database. Those are other stats from this project. And I think the most important part is here in the bottom left. We have over 900 event types in our system. So we extracted those events over the time because it was a typical Rails applications, and then we ended up with 900 event types. And the tables for events are taking 2 terabytes, and it's, again, not a big issue. So here is one idea how you can use events. This is a very trivial business process implemented with a design pattern called process manager. This is a concept from domain-driven design. So we have a name, welcome message process. It takes event store, it takes command bus. Those are two things that you will work with when you work with events. And when event comes, we check what is the event. If it's customer registered, we have a process which says if it's customer registered, we send them an internal message saying, welcome to our platform. So this is a very basic interaction. When an event happens, we send our internal command to the system, and we are using this send message command. Commands and events are like the same, almost the same thing. So you send a command just to receive an event as a consequence. Here is a more complex process, but again, the name is reservation process. We are saying which events we are interested in. We are interested in 3 events, because after the order is confirmed, we want to ensure that we can actually, that we have the items available. And in the state machine here, we are checking which state we are in right now, and whether we can reject the order or accept the order. So that's the happy scenario, accept the order. Accepting the order, and then when order is confirmed, we dispatch the stock. So we are coordinating in such process, we are coordinating different domains, because we are coordinating pricing domain, we are coordinating fulfillment domain, and here actually we are coordinating inventory domain. So thanks to such managers, such processes, we can combine this previously separated domains together, and we are using events for that. So you can imagine this HR process that was shown being implemented very similarly. So job was posted, candidate applied, and here we would decide what is the next step of the process. So in one class, we have an encapsulation of the whole business process. And that's a thing, that's an abstraction that is not easily available right now in Rails. That's kind of new. We cannot capture events in Rails that easily. Well, now we can. And we cannot capture business processes easily. So with this pattern and with events, we try to do this. So how do we display data when we have events? Does it change anything? This is a very simple, let's say, admin panel, list of products, whether they are available, or what is the stock level, what are the prices, and what is the VAT rate. So it's a very trivial UI concept. This is a concept of a read model. So the first tool I told you was Process Manager, and now we are going to use read models. Read models are the things responsible for displaying data. And now you can see that in here, we are saying which events we are interested in. So we are interested in the fact that product was actually registered in the catalog. We are interested that product was named in the catalog. And what we are doing is we are copying the attribute from the event to the data table. So for the views, we do actually use product inherits from application record. We use active record for displaying data because Rails and active record is amazing for displaying data. But please note the fact that this active record object doesn't have validations, doesn't have associations, doesn't have callbacks. And the reason for that is that the events are becoming the source of truth in our application. So it's not here where we validate. Here we just react to what was already hopefully validated. And in the next step, I'm going to show you how we publish events and why it's validated already. So you can see 5 events that we are interested in. That's the migration schema, nothing unusual. We are just having 5 columns. And if I go displaying data. Okay, so where do events come from? They come from business departments, let's say. So here is a nice GPT-generated image of an office. I told him I want to see doors on both sides representing business departments like sales, marketing, invoicing, and so on. At the end, there is all orders, which is a read model. And now The interesting part here is the shelves. Each door, each department is hidden in a room, and the only way of they communicating with the outside world is via events. But they also have some sort of inbox and outbox. It's very similar to actor model, if you know this idea. So whenever we want to tell to the sales department, hey, our user wants to confirm the order, we are placing a command here. They are taking this inside. They are thinking, is the order in a state that is actually allowing us to confirm the order? If it is, they will get out and put an event here. Order was confirmed. An event happened. And now everyone here who can be interested, like the all orders read model, they are interested in this event. They should append one row to the table. So we can imagine some people running here, taking the event and bringing them to other place, to other door, right? So that's how the communication works. So all is based on commands and events. And the really important thing, especially for us Rails developers, where we used to have active records, and whenever we need, we are in the user data table, whenever we need orders, we just say user.orders, dot something, just grab me some data, right? So users, orders, dot customer, dot address, dot, I don't know, email, right? So we can easily grab, we can go anywhere, we can traverse the departments. That's something we don't do here. That's orders and sales, they have their own data. The marketing never looked directly into sales. Only communication is happening via events. So yeah, Rails applications, they don't have domains. We have one big domain. All our active records connected to each other can be traversed. That's one big domain. So thanks to the events, we can start separating the domains. So that's another way of looking at this. We have our domain layer, application layer, and those are our modules here, and they communicate via events to the application layer, to read models or to something else. So how do we publish the events? We use a concept of aggregate, but it can be, there are many patterns for this. What is important to understand is that usually when we publish events, it's some sort of a state machine. Everything can be represented as a state machine. So here, when we are talking about registering, confirming, or canceling an order, you can see that this implementation is basically a bunch of very simple if statements. We are just ensuring that this state machine kind of works. So that when we register an order, we assume that the state was empty, so we can proceed. And when we are proceeding, we are publishing. The apply is actually publish. So we are publishing an event, and we send the data, order ID and some number. When we are confirming the event, again, we are checking if it's possible. So here is where we moved the validations. We no longer use validations on active record because we just kind of bypass active record now. We are using those. I'm using exceptions. It doesn't have to be exceptions, of course. It's just some sort of checking what's possible. So this way, we can represent each domain as a bunch of state machines which produce events, and those events are being published, and when they are published, then can be consumed by process managers or read models. And that's it. That's the whole complexity of event-driven Rails. That's the whole complexity of domain-driven design in Rails applications. So everything, after that, everything becomes like an event algebra. We are now operating in a different way. We're not thinking in active records anymore, we are thinking in events. But of course, it's when you are working with your Rails applications, you cannot easily just say, hey, I'm gonna do DDD now. You have to accept some sort of hybrid approach if you like this idea. And probably many of you use service objects, right? It's a very popular pattern in Rails. It became popular, I think, around 2015. And most of the projects I review, they use service objects. It's a very typical situation. So in service object, we can publish events. So let's look at one example service object. I'm not saying this is a good service object or bad. It's something that usually exists in our code base, right? So this is pay for order. And what we are doing here is we are manipulating some active records. We are creating order transaction for an order. And if it was successful, we are saying order.paid, which we can imagine just changes the Boolean flag to true, right? The paid flag to true. And then we send some mail to confirm. So we can see the first branch of this if statement is actually responsible for managing the success scenario, right? So this is the place. Please note the change of the slide now. We are adding a new line, event store.publish, and we are publishing order paid event. So this is how we can slowly extend our service object with events. So we created order paid event somewhere. App events is a good place to start with. And then we proceed. And because the events under the hood, they're using our relational database, they're still part of the same transaction. So there is nothing asynchronous going on. There's nothing like, there's no external database for events. We are just using events in our database. One benefit from such approach is that you get event log for free, which is very useful for debugging and very useful for DevOps when they handle this in production. Okay, this is not super visible maybe, but this is a scenario of confirming an order placed by a customer who just adds 2 items, but a bunch of events is happening. So there's like, I don't know, 25 events. And this is, each event has its own ID, each event has its own timestamp. And when we go into a specific event, we get this UI, by the way, for free. We can even see which events were caused by this event. So we can see by correlation, like what is the event flow. And we can see which streams the event belong. So it belongs to some processes, to some read models. So this is very useful for debugging. And now, event sourcing. I know this concept is mentioned very often, event sourcing. But I want you to know that this is optional. Event sourcing is a way of persisting the business objects. So you can do event sourcing. We can do event sourcing as an alternative to active record. But in order to gain most benefits from event-driven approach, you don't have to do event sourcing. So you can still stick to active record if you like it. Another concept that is coming, because the simplicity of event, there's a power and simplicity of this concept. We can do so much things, like event storming is a technique to communicate with our business people. Here on our YouTube channel, we have prepared a tutorial how to use event storming using Miro board. So you can just get on a call with a product owner, put some sticky notes on Miro. Each sticky note is an event, and you can communicate like this. It's very easy. Or preferably, if you have this luxury of having clients in your office, you can put the sticky notes on the wall. They represent events, commands, or read models, or process managers. So the different colors represent the different kinds. And you can see there is like a map. The domains were drawn based on this. So this is a big picture event storming. And there is event modeling, another concept where you can get your UI, your wireframes at the top, map them into events and commands, and basically this becomes like your backlog. This is Heroes of Might and Magic example, where you can see this screen was mapped into events and commands. And each arrow can become a work item in your backlog. So event also helps you with managing your backlog because it's like one slice. We call it a slice-driven approach. And last but not least, I had to mention AI, right, at some point. So let me be the first one at this conference. DDD codebase is AI friendly because the domains are very tiny, they are well bounded, so they fit into the context of AI. They are small. And I've been experimenting over the last months with refactoring such codebases, and actually Claude, I was using Claude, was doing quite well, surprisingly well. Because with legacy Rails applications, probably many of you know, it's not doing very well. It hallucinates a lot. Here is a repository that I want to recommend you to look at. The organization is called Rails Event Store, and the repository is called e-commerce. And everything that I explained today is in this repository. And this repository is a Rails application, fully DDD, fully event-driven, fully event-sourced, so you can see how such application can look like, and whether you like it or not, and then decide whether you want to go this way or not. This application uses Rails Event Store. It's an open source and totally free tool that we have developed in 2015 to help legacy Rails applications to switch to DDD and to switch to events. So in this application, you can see how it's configured and how it works under the hood. So my recommendation, my final slide is here. Get familiar with this repository, this e-commerce repository. Install Rails Event Store in your application. Start publishing events in your service objects. And just publishing doesn't change anything. Only later you can decide how you're going to consume the events. So it's a safe start towards this approach, of course, after you debate it in your team. So be the Gukesh in your Rails team, be strategical, help the team relax and get a peace of mind that we can always react to everything that's happening, because every new requirement that the business brings to us can be mapped to events, and we can easily react. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrzej.